Hello and welcome to a second attempt at actually doing a review, because I realised by the time I recorded that last thing that it was more of a half review, half rant, and it's why I've still uploaded it, even though most likely as I'm recording this my brother will have told me not to. But it's one of those things that I actually thought what I said touched on some decent points and hopefully some people will agree, so that's why that went up. So this is now actually a proper full-on review, no crap. Let's begin. Today I'm going to be taking a look at A Link Between Worlds on the 3DS. I know I didn't start the vid the same way, but it's one of those. If you've never played the game before, or played any Zelda before, then it might be a good place to start, but also you might be best off looking at A Link to the Past on the SNES, which you can get on the SNES, the GBA, or even the VC, because you're in the same world. The overworld is pretty much the same. I mean, things are in different places. There'll be characters here and there that are different. There'll be like the blacksmiths, I think, is in a different location than what it was. At least I'm pretty sure the blacksmith's in a different location than what it was. And there's just things like that. But mainly, it is the same world that you grew up and loved on the SNES, but done on the 3DS. The whole reason why they've done that, I'm not too sure. I mean, Miyamoto kept saying he wanted to revisit it in some way, and maybe that's just it. Maybe he just wanted to go, right, let's see if it can be done. And personally, I think they've done a fantastic job. It's something that I would love to see them do with other worlds, but at the same time, there'll probably be a lot of people who just want new Zeldas, whereas meanwhile, I'm quite content to have a 3D Majora's Mask game or a Skyward Sword on the gamepad so I can play it with proper controls or something like that, really. And I'd love to see a revisit to Ocarina, quite frankly, because I absolutely love the game. But it's a no-frill Zelda game at the end of the day. The gimmicky stuff isn't really gimmicky. The three things that are pretty much the main additions to the gameplay that we've never really seen before. You've had essentially what was Street Pass on the two DS Zeldas, but it was before it was called Street Pass and things have changed. And it's these here. Basically, I've got a Shadow Link, it's via Street Pass, and you go up against them, and they send out their best fighter, and you send out, well, who you're playing as now. So, this one here is, it's going to be a walkover for them, quite frankly. They've got far better kit, they've got better energy. I mean, I might be able to fluke a win, but it's just the sort of thing that it's always worth playing them, because even if you lose, you don't really lose. Nothing happens. But if you win, you get some money, and you can, the money will help you out, because it's got a weapon system that's unlike any other, well, item system, I suppose, unlike any other Zelda game. Instead of you find a dungeon, you play through the dungeon, you get the item, you now have a shop, which is actually in your house. And you go to the shop and you rent items, and what you can rent changes over time, and you can get more of it at the same time. And it means that certain dungeons can only be defeated at certain times until you go and get the items. And it's pretty much, it is actually cool from one point of view, but also pointless from another, because it hasn't really changed much. A lot of people are saying it's added freedom to it, but I personally don't think it has. If you watch the rant, you've probably heard us say this bit before, because I'm kind of going to say it word for word, but I've never understood why you wanted freedom in Zelda, because at the end of the day, it was always a linear path, and that worked fine for loads of people. And I severely doubt there was anyone wandering around who found a dungeon out of place and thought, oh, I can't believe I can't play this. Because the way it goes, it always leads you to the next dungeon, and because you've never played it before, then you don't know what you're getting into. So I think it's better to then go into the dungeon with a mystery of, oh, I hope I get this item, it's one of my favourites, I can't wait to use it again. Instead, now all that's taken away, and it's kind of became a bit bland because of it. But at the same time, it's not changed much at all, because all it now means is when you find the dungeon, there'll be a picture of what you need to do that dungeon, and if you don't have it on you, it means that you're going out, you're exiting the dungeon, you're hitting the bell, which is a new item type thing, and the bell then brings a witch who will fly you to wherever you want to go, which in the case of now is your house. And basically, she flies you back to the house, you then go there, into your house, you rent the item that you need, and fly back to the dungeon, if possible, and you go into the dungeon and do it regular. So all that's done is added more time onto the game, so I don't really get the whole need to have had this set up at all, quite frankly. It's just not for me, but at the same time, it doesn't ruin the game, it doesn't hurt the game, it doesn't damage it, and it plays like a bog standard Zelda, so I'm not going to complain at all, because that's the type of Zelda I like. The other slightly gimmicky thing is that it's actually added 2D to the game. And what with it being the 3DS, everyone would think it's 3D, but they've not. They've added 2D to the game. It's the ability to turn into a picture link, and you can walk on walls and bricks and things, and it adds a new layer of depth to the puzzles, whilst taking away depth from the puzzles, if you get the meaning, because by turning it 2D, you're taking away the third dimension, but that then totally adds and changes how things play, and it really does make for a new experience, and it means that you have to think outside the box to solve puzzles, and it works really well. And again, it's not really that gimmicky, because it's not something that's going to drastically change it or anything. It's just a puzzle aspect. It's not you can't even really, for example, here I'm pushing attack, and you can't, because I can't attack while I'm in the wall. So it's the sort of thing that it doesn't change anything at all about the gameplay except the puzzles, and they're the things that kind of need sprucing up in a Zelda, because, when I played through Twilight Princess, I'd pretty much seen all of the puzzles before, time and time again. There wasn't really anything inventive there, so that was another reason why I found it really easy as a Zelda game, and it's a bit of a shame. But these are what I mean here. This is where I found the first dungeon. As far as I'm aware, I think the first one has to be the first one for everyone. But after that, then whichever order you find them in mightn't be the same order that other people found them in. So here it said I needed a bow and arrow, so I had to go and I had to get a bow and arrow, which item management screen's all on the bottom, and then I had to hit them, and then bam, I could go into the dungeon. The touchscreen doesn't really do anything at all except for using the map, and you can put markers in the area and that. So if you need to, if you've got a notepad or something, you can do red marker in Kakariko and write down what that's for, so you can remember, exactly what you're there. So it might be you found a heart piece, you think you need XYZ item to get it, that sort of thing, Gear is the standard stuff. As you can see, I'm on an early file, so I've not really got much there, but I never want to really spoil anything by showing the types of things that you can get later on, because there are some items that you can't get right at the start from renting, and I don't want to spoil that for anyone, in case they want to find out for themselves what they're doing, But they are pretty much the three main things they've added. As I say, the 2-dimension going into the walls to solve puzzles, the shadow battles, and the renting items. But other than that, it's a bog standard Zelda. It plays like a bog standard Zelda. It looks like a bog standard Zelda. It sounds like a bog standard Zelda. And for that reason, I absolutely love the game. It's one of my favourite Zeldas that have came out in a long time, because it's actually something that I've been able to play straight away and enjoy. There hasn't been a single problem with it that's made me think, oh, I really can't believe I bought this. Like there was with, for example, Skyward. I really wanted to love Skyward, and I was able to like it to a point to play it, but all I wanted to do was play it with proper control scheme, because I hated the motion controls. With Twilight, it was just far too easy for me. With the DS games, I hated the touchscreen mechanics. With Minish Cap's actually one that I started out hating, and when I've tried it again as part of the Ambassador program, I could enjoy it a bit more. It's still not something that I've put a lot of time into, which is why I haven't reviewed it, because I've still not got around to beating it, because I get bored middle way through Minish Cap, it seems. Whereas this, I've just been able to put it on, play through it in, well, I'd like to see a one sitting, but what with battery lives and that, it wasn't one sitting, but I just played through it, and I just absolutely loved every minute of it. There was a lot of nostalgia from the point of view of it playing like the SNES game, and it having a lot of stuff from the SNES game, but at the same time, there was then a lot of new stuff, because the dungeons aren't the same. It's only the overworld that's mostly the same. The dungeons are brand new. There's loads of caves and things that weren't there before that would have different layouts and different things. So it's not something that if you're absolutely a master of Link to the Past, you're not going to be able to put this on and just blast through it in one sitting. There's going to be parts that you find difficult. There's going to be parts that you think, yeah, that's actually got me stumped. I need to have a think about that. There's going to be hard pieces that you're not going to find straight away. And it's why I really like the game. There's also, for the first time in a Zelda game, a real penalty for dying on the game. Because if you die, then you lose all the items that you've got, but you stay in the dungeon. So it then becomes really hard to either complete the part of the dungeon you're up to, or just getting out of the dungeon without dying again, because you've already then lost all of your rental fees. You're going to have to rent them again and pay more rupees, and it's why, as I say, those shadow battles come in handy until you've beat the game, and then they're kind of pointless, because once you've beat the game, it's the sort of thing that if you are 100% and you're sending out the hardest link to fight, I just don't get it. You don't get any benefit at all from doing that. You're just making it harder for other people. You're not going to meet them. It's not something like you can say in your face, I'm so much better than you. Because again, chances are you're not going to meet them unless it's your friends. And then they've probably all progressed at the same time. And when you do shadow battles yourself with your badass character, you're going to get some rupees, but if you've already 100% of the game, rupees are completely pointless. There's no need for them because you've got nothing left to do on the game, you know? So it's why, again, I kind of think that the whole shadow battle thing's pointless once you get to a certain point in the game. And it's why, as I was saying, dying does take a toll, and why it's worth playing them when you're playing through it for the first time, because, well, not even so much the first time, obviously, if you're just playing through it and you haven't beat it on the file that you're on, I suppose is the way to put it, because it means that you can get some free rupees, hopefully, which will then help you out, and means if you die, you can go straight back to rent the items and then run back on that. And that's, again, another reason why the item system doesn't so much grate on me, but again, it just adds more time onto things, because yeah, dying is actually a penalty, and believe me, that's great, it adds some difficulty to it. But at the same time, I can't help but feel that once I've died in a dungeon, I have to go all the way back to rent the items again that I had to go back to rent in the first place because I didn't know which items I'd need. It just adds more time onto it, and it's almost as if they've done that to try and pad out the length of it, because people are complaining that it is relatively short. Now granted, I think some of the people will have probably sat there with a guide on their laps their entire time, because the times that they're posting as their first time completion, it seems too fishy that they are just like genuinely that good and have been able to solve everything first time and find everything first time, you know. It's a sort of thing that, like, either they've got perfect gaming ESP or they've been sitting there with a guide and then they have the goal to complain that it's easy and short, you know. But anyway, there's nothing much else I can actually mention about the game. I mean, graphically it looks great, musically it sounds great. These are things I've already said. If you are into the Zelda franchise, it's well worth getting. If you want to get into the Zelda franchise, it's well worth getting. But if you can, try and play A Link to the Past first, because a lot of what makes this game great is the nostalgia of seeing things in a new light for the first time, you know. Like saying, it's almost like seeing things that are completely new but old at the same time. I absolutely love it, and it's why I've really bought into the whole thing, and why I would love to see it again on other Zeldas, you know. So I think that is pretty much all I can say about the game. At least that was more of a review and a lot less rant. So there we go then. That's been the review. I hope you found it helpful. I don't score the games because that's based purely on opinion, so instead I'll leave you to make your own mind up. So thanks for watching, and if you've got any questions about the game that I didn't answer in the vid or that hasn't been answered in the comments, then feel free to ask and I'll help if I can. Also, if you did find it helpful, don't forget to check out my channel, because there's plenty more like this up there, and don't forget to subscribe because there'll be plenty more to come as well. So until next time, this has been Demon212, signing off.